I'd walk you through some presentation skills which you can use to apply to not only the PowerPoint for your pitch deck presentation on Friday, but also the things that you use to represent your company and your brand, as far as the things that you put on Twitter, maybe your display picture there, or if you've got posters going up in your trade show, that's really useful as well. So the first thing we'll look at is style, and the most important thing to remember about style is consistency. Professional brands, you will be able to see that anything they produce, you can notice that it belongs to them no matter where you see it. If you get a business card from the CEO of Microsoft and then you see an advert for Microsoft on the bus, you will be able to tell that they are both from the same company because of the way that they tie together. So style is consistency. Font selection is very important. Obviously, we can see two examples here. One is nice and one is horrific and should never be done or seen again by humanity. 2 to 3 fonts maximum is what you want to look at, ideally 2. Also, you want to look at appropriate, professional, and readable fonts. You can see here on the right, heading 2, this hot pink, all uppercase script font. Very unreadable, very unprofessional, unless for some reason your brand looks like that, which I can't imagine why it would. Probably avoid those. So use your fonts smartly. You can utilize different parts of the font, such as bolding and italics, to emphasize different parts of it. So you can see here on the left, we've sort of emphasized the name of the company or which part of the startup capital they need, the initial part of it, and it must be delivered by the end of the month. So that's just using simple parts of the font to emphasize. Avoid using all capital letters in large bodies of text. It's been scientifically proven that humans find it difficult to read capitals for a large amount of time. So you'll see some companies actually just use straight lowercase for everything, even the name of their company. This is just because it's easier for the humans to read. So keep that in mind. We don't want to see a full slide of uppercase. Short sentences are generally fine. Make sure that you test your fonts. Even though they might look okay on your computer, you might have created them on a Mac, but we'll be taking them to the computer in the lecture hall, which is running on Windows. So there might be incompatibilities. So just make sure that you are mindful of that, because we don't want any last minute breakages in your display. All right, now on to communication. So recognize your audience. If you have so we've got on the left here a poster. So you can imagine that sort of being huge, hung up maybe in a airport. You want to catch people's eye. You've got a very minimal amount of time to get across your message. So you just want like a catchy tagline, very visual, very heavy on lots of colors. And then on the right, we've got a report document. So there's this very small text, so we can fit lots of it in, easy to read, graphic light. That's going to be a lot easier, almost like you would find if you picked up a novel. Just easy to read, easy to consume that amount of information very quickly. Using dot points and using them smartly. For instance, if you're doing your presentation on Friday and you want to emphasize a few points, write them out short and sweet in dot points. Do not write your entire script. One of the problems is that we can actually read a lot faster than you can talk, and you don't want to have your audience a good 3 minutes in front of you as you're just reading exactly what's written on the screen. You just want to emphasize those key points, and they'll help you stay on track if you don't have notes on you as well. Use a table of contents. It helps to let your audience know what to expect, how long it might be, how far along they are. And speaking of which, here's a table of contents for this production. Sorry about that. So we just finished communication. which means that we're going straight on to layout. Using grids is an easy way to make your layout visually appealing. So you can see here we've got a clear margin on our document, and then we've sort of split it up into thirds and then halved those thirds, and everything sort of correlates to part of that grid. And if we took that away, it would be subtle, but it would be very visually appealing. And it's an easy way to know where to put your things and where to leave sort of blank space. Leading the eye is important. So on our side of the world, we read from left to right. So you want to kind of drag the eye, because that's what we're used to. So we're going from the top corner and then heading down, and that's the order that you want your audience to read your text. So in this example, we've got an introduction at the top, and then heading down, we've got a little bit of a blurb, and then finally a little bit of a call to action, like find us on Facebook. You want to keep mindful of that. Make sure that you don't have like your introduction down in the bottom left corner and then some text which you want them to read secondary, sort of like up in the top right, because you generally, the human eye will start scanning down and find the first thing to sort of attach to. White space is important. As you can see from these two examples, apple.com, lots of white space, very clean. Then there's this, which is, I don't even want to sort of, yeah. White space rests the eyes and looks classy and professional. There's a difference between if you saw a catalog of things from Apple, or perhaps a company such as like Calvin Klein or Ralph Lauren, they would use large amounts of white space. And even if it isn't technically white, it could be all black, or it could be a gray, it could be all blue. As long as there's space with nothing there, it helps to rest the eyes. And then you can compare those to something like a catalog from Shiploads or Bunnings or Chemist Warehouse, where every single space that they can possibly fill with a starburst, they fill. And that's good for their brand, because their brand is cheap and affordable. And I mean, maybe that's, if you're going for a discount business, then that might be your thing. But generally, if you're looking for classy and professional, you want to try to utilize white space correctly. Colors are a big thing. They'll be able to sort of communicate mood. Sometimes blue communicates calmness, professionalism. Red sort of communicates an energy or a passion. And green usually communicates something like the environment, or in some cases, money. Use them correctly to get the kind of tone and mood that you want for your business communicated across. Make sure that you look for contrasting. So you can see on the side here these font colors just sitting over these blocks of text that just make it very difficult to read. There isn't enough contrast. So you have to be conscious of that, especially if you're doing a presentation on a big screen. It won't always be very readable. So here's just another few tips, just to finish off. Back to eye-catching. What do we want the viewer to remember? When you produce a poster or a brochure, you are trying to communicate a message or something for the viewer to remember. So you should always ask yourself what that is, and when you're done with it, you should ask yourself again, has this communicated what I want to communicate properly? If you're doing a poster, you want the smallest amount of text possible, because people will look at it for a while and then quickly just lose interest in it. However, a business plan is very different. You want to keep them interested. And again, use diagonal lines and grids to pull the eye through the presentation to maximize communication of your ideas. Be efficient with what you do. Be economical in how many words you have. Don't use 3 when 1 will suffice. The Obama posters famously just said hope at the bottom, and I don't think that would have been as effective if they said, hopefully this guy will be a new hope for America. So be economical with it. Try to get what you want to say across as concisely as possible, but use enough to get the idea across. You don't want to sort of cut short and not communicate clearly exactly what you're trying to say. There's a nice happy medium. And again, don't be afraid of using your white space to balance out your layout. Be accurate. Do not distort your information and do not present incorrect information. The judges will know. We'll be double checking all that. If you've got some financials up there which are just blatantly incorrect, we will find out about it. So avoid that where possible. Don't be afraid to ask someone to review your presentation. Even after I've been working as a designer for 7 years, I get 2 different people to double check my work, sort of big jobs, to spell check them, make sure all the grammar's correct. Because after you stare at something for an hour, the words just become shapes to you and you cannot read it. The brain tricks you and it tells you that it's correct when it's not. So be careful of spelling mistakes. Be careful of spelling mistakes. Yeah. All right, cool. That's all for the graphic presentation.